What it do, everybody? What's happening? This is Pastor Chris, Pastor CeeLo, Pastor Lowry. How are y'all doing this wonderful, wonderful Friday evening? Welcome to Daybreak. This is Daybreak. Yo, we're coming back to you again with another part two, another good message, encouraging story, or encouraging moment in the Bible to drive our topic and series of Unsung. So, tonight we are going to be talking about a young lady by the name of Abigail, who's in the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 25. It's going to be a little unorthodox in how I deliver this one a little bit because this is a long moment in this chapter. So I'm not going to read the whole chapter to you, but what I am going to do is walk this story as best as possible and give you what you need out of this so you can understand the impact that she makes, not only in her husband's life and her connection to her husband, but also in the soon to be king David's life. So if you have your Bibles, go to 1 Samuel 25. You know, like this, share it, get it out there for me. I'm gonna do the same thing for everybody. Yo, for our older series, if you need something to watch, to encourage you, to lift you up, just some good teaching and all, like us on YouTube. It is Daybreak Church LV. All of our old series are there from last year, and this is there too. This one will be there, and the first part to this series is there. So, YouTube, Daybreak Church LV. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so when we go live, you get the notification. If you're on Facebook and you're watching this off of somebody's share or like, or you're watching the replay, go ahead and go to Daybreak LV and like and subscribe. So, again, I'm gonna go ahead and share like this, share it myself, get it out there, and we're gonna get into it. Again, we are 1 Samuel chapter 25. We're talking about Abigail. Again, we're gonna keep it with some women. This is March, it is Women's History Month. So we're gonna talk about some strong women that were in the Bible that may be looked over, but they've had some massive impact in what they did. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and share it like this. So let's go. There we go. For sure. All right. So we are talking about Abigail. All right. Again, the series is Unsung. So let me just give you guys a rundown of this, a synopsis real quick of this story, and then I'll go into further detail. We find Abigail in 1 Samuel 25, right? When we find her in 1 Samuel 25, she is the king, she is the wife to a king by the name of Nabal. And Nabal is like this ruthless guy. He don't care about nobody else. He's all about him. He's foolish. He's arrogant. He's one of those individuals who are unreasonable, and he's just straight mean. Even when it comes to his wife and everybody around him, he's just, he's mean. So he has riches, he has sheep. It's the season where they go ahead and get all the fur off of their sheep and sell it and this, that, and the other. And so David sends his boys, sends some of his people, and was like, "Yo, we've been gracious to you guys. We favored you guys, all your people when you guys were out doing your thing in the wilderness. We made sure we protected y'all. Can you just do us a favor and go ahead and throw some love back?" And in this moment, when he asked for this, he had his people go down there and ask for this. Nabal treats them disrespectfully, so disrespectfully to the point, so disrespectful, how disrespectfully, so disrespectful to the point that King David's like, no, when his people come back and he tells them what happened, he's like, no, that ain't it. We've done so much for him and we've always been around. We've helped. We ain't been mean to them or anything like that. He straps up, gets his boys, they suit up, they hit they horses, and they're about to go slaughter him and his whole house. So at the end of the day, um, Abigail finds out, the wife. She jumps in, goes straight into action, goes and runs into King David, gives like a full on apology, offerings, all the full nine, and it changes everything. So I really got to ask this question on tonight, just as just a little synopsis, but we're gonna go a little deeper into it. Um, have you ever been, or have you ever been, or noticed, or even if you haven't been there yet, one day you will be there where you've noticed that you were graced for a thing, you were graced for a person, you were graced for a place, and even if it's a person or a place, it could have been your workplace. You were graced to be there. It was like you were on assignment in this person's life. You were on assignment in that location. You were assignment for that season or that situation, right? And you just noticed everything that was going on, whether it was with that person, with the area, with the location, with the job, with the vision, whatever the case may be. It was just always foolish, or for the person, they were just arrogant, they were unreasonable, and like you were that wise friend, you were that wise spouse, you were that wise employee that realized this thing. You were almost the individual keeping it together. You were the glue to it all. You were the person that was keeping harm, death, destruction from happening. And you ever wonder to yourself, man, why did I go through that? Why did I have to be there? Why this? Why that? Right? Like there's always the why. And you realize, man, I was graced for this connection at the end of the day. And when you're graced for a connection, it doesn't matter how tough it may be, how bad it may be. There's a way to handle everything that happens when you're graced for a thing. And this is going to be the valuable piece that we get out of Abigail. How to handle when you're graced for a connection, especially during crisis, or when that connection that you're graced to is just all bad. Because we can be like older generations, and they would always be like, oh, well, um, I'm gonna take my hands off of it, let God handle it. And even if they knew they weren't supposed to leave this individual's life or leave this job, whatever the case may be, and they'd just be like, I'm gonna pray for it. I'm gonna pray over it and let it change. Sometimes it takes more than just prayer to for action, for a response, for things to change. When you're graced for a thing, is prayer is beautiful. Prayer is always number one, but you have to act also. So when you look at this, and I want you guys to make sure read this story tonight. When you read this story, you'll realize between verses 14 through 19, right, that when you're graced for a connection, and it will never make sense. It will never make sense why you're still there, why you're in it, why you of all people have to hold on to it. And it's funny because I can imagine Abigail being that same way. See, culturally, all marriage back then were prearranged, right? So I'm sure Abigail's parents were hyped. They were looking at this thing when it came to the ball. Yo, our daughter's about to marry this rich man because he was really well off, and everything's gonna be fine because he had money. But in her mind, she's like, yo, I'm not with this because this dude is mean. His attitude suck. His breath probably stank. He ain't nothing good about him. Don't nobody even like him. But I have to go ahead and do this. Why? Because it's prearranged. This is what my parents are putting me in. So to honor and respect my parents, I'm here. They're looking at it as, man, it's a good chance for our daughter to have a great life. And she's like, man, I don't even want to be involved. And when it comes to this individual, when you look at Nabal, there's no telling how many people he has he has been this way to, been horrible to, whether wife, whether in man, whatever the case may be. But this moment in history matters more because the person he disrespected was David. So even when you look at connections and people you may be tied to, businesses or a job or anything like that, and you're placed there on assignment, can we fast forward and look at it full circle? You always have to ask yourself the question when you ask God, God, is this where you need me to be? Is this purpose right now? Because you never just want to walk away from a thing that you have purpose where you're at. There's a reason why you're there, because you may not like the setup, you may not like how it looks. Everybody else will be like, man, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm walking away, I don't have to be around this person, I don't want to be around this person, I don't want this job no more, I'm gonna quit, blah 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 blah. You may be, and they may walk away because it's not, they're not connected to it like that. It's not pushing them to stay there. But when God puts that arrangement on you, puts that assignment on you, All you can do is honor and honor the request, honor the assignment, and go forward. Because that's the same thing Abigail had to do here. She had to honor what her parents wanted, just like we have to honor what the parent wants, God Himself, the Father. And if He puts you in a divine place, in an assigned place, it don't matter how frustrating it may be. It doesn't matter what other people may think about the situation, how many times that person may mess up, they may do wrong, but you always find yourself being there, and you're so frustrated to the point where you may be able, like, man, I just want to kick a baby right now. And but at the end of the day, there's something in you that's driving you to continue to push, to continue to be there. Because at the end of the day, God has you in those situations because why? You're graced for it, which means in those moments with that person, with that individual, you are a form of Jesus in that person's life. You are a form of Jesus in that situation, in that environment. Why are you a form of Jesus? Because no matter how messed up it may look, how many mistakes that person may make, how bad the job may look, there's some form of grace that still needs to pass through in that place for change to happen. And everybody needs it. And that grace might be poured out, that grace and mercy might be poured out from you because you're the assigned individual for that person. You're the assigned individual for that location where your presence cause change. You cause the atmosphere to shift. You keep it protected. You keep that person safe, or whatever the case may be. As much as they may want to run their head into the wall, you're always still there to help pick them up when everybody else will walk away, because you are graced for that. And I think it makes me think about in Hebrews where it's like the angels don't understand that it's not like they have an ought. I'm not going to call it an ought, but the angels didn't understand, had the one little issue with mankind because we received grace, but they don't. So Jesus' whole assignment was to establish and give us grace. The same individual, he was graced for us. Just like you may be graced for a person, you may be graced for a place, you may be graced for a thing, but he was graced for us because that's what we needed. As much as we may mess up, we have hangups, we keep going backwards, we keep going forward, we may turn around, this, that, and the other, but that grace never left. Because he was graced for us, like you may be graced for a person, you may be graced for a thing, you may be graced for a place. And so when you look at Abigail, Abigail had to do the same thing. She had to respect an assignment and show as much grace to the situation as possible. As bad and as foolish as she knew as her husband was, no matter what he did, she was always still there. She was always still in the mix. She never let him fall, even in this situation. So in the story of it all this word, all this that goes back, all that he said to King David's men, get back to King David. They strap up, they're ready to go to war, and they're going to go ahead and slaughter the whole household because Nabal and his arrogance. And so as they're getting ready to leave and take off and come there, word gets back. And the word hits Abigail first. And Abigail's like, no, I can't let this happen because she's graced for this city, she's graced for this individual, she's graced for this man, she's graced for these people. I can't let this happen. So what does she do? She packs up all the resources she can. She gets all the men she can, and she goes out and goes hunting, not even on a hunt, but goes looking for David to try to intercede and stop him in the moment. So when she gets out to try to stop him in the moment, it dawns on me that when we're graced for a thing, or when we're graced for a person, when we're graced for an individual, we have to pick intercession over our feelings. As much as, you know, she could have let it happen, as much as she's like, man, he foolish, he deserves this, as much as she probably was done wrong by him on many occasions, she still went out and put her feelings on the back burner and went forward to intercede on what she was graced for, or who she was graced for, or what she was graced for. So she goes out and she stops David and she talks to David. She apologizes to him for everything that Nabal did. And it's like us, when we think about that thing, it's like, man, we come up with so many reasons of why this person deserves that. Man, this is what they get with their foolish self. Well, I'm gonna be out of this situation. This ain't got no nothing to do with us, and we're quick to wipe our hands and wash our hands with it. Oh, but when you're graced for a person, you're graced for a thing, you're graced for a place, no matter how you feel, you're gonna stand in that gap and request mercy over mayhem. That's exactly what she did. When she goes forward, she's choosing mercy for everybody over mayhem. So she loads up, she goes out, and this is how you know she was choosing mercy over mayhem, is because being graced and wanting to do the right thing, um, it doesn't matter what you're putting in jeopardy. When you look at this and you look at it culturally, there was no reason why she should have been out there in the first place. She was the wife. Roles and all that other stuff went down back then. So her character was at stake. Her life was at stake, all because of a foolish individual. I know someone might be watching this like, nah, I'm not gonna put my character at risk for someone else. But can I ask you this question? How many times have you actually done that and it always backfired on you? You found yourself in a situation trying to help somebody, trying to protect somebody, trying to cover somebody. And at the end of the day, because you went in your own strength, at the end of the day, the problem ended up being your problem. And you were just trying to be the help. But when you move because of faith, there is a grace and mercy for all the parties in this. So often we try to help, we try to cover, we try to be there and intercede for people. And honestly, it's not on us, it's not for us. We're doing it in our own strength. And it comes sometimes it turns around and it bites us in the butt. But when you're graced, when this is the assignment, when this is what you are supposed to do, you're moving in God's strength. You're moving because you're moving on your own. You're moving on faith that is in God and what God is going to do. And that's where we find Abigail and why she moved. She wasn't worried about her character. She wasn't worried about what was going on. What she was more worried about, when she finds David and begins to intercede, is not because her husband didn't deserve any of that. It was mainly because she had faith in the future and the plan that God had for David. It had nothing to do with her husband. It had nothing to do with the situation. She knew what faith she had in God and what was going on and the moves that God had already made in David's life. And she started to, which was her moving in God's strength. And she began to remind David of his future that's coming, what God said about his future, reminding him what God has already said about him as a way of interceding to change the situation. Because she's reminding him now, yo, if you go forward with this, everything that God has already said is being put at risk. Don't do that. Not over this foolish man. Don't do that. Not over this unreasonable individual. Don't do that over this person. As much as she knows that's her husband, she's covering David and protecting her husband all in the same move. Sometimes intercession has to be an action, a response, not just a prayer, because some people just need that. Some situations need you to just move and not pray. And here's how you know when you're graced for this type of stuff, when this is your assignment, when this is the move that you have to make. Because no matter the person's hangups, no matter how you may feel, whatever the case may be, when you're graced for that thing, the people that you have to talk to, the places you have to go, no matter where they are or where your role is in the situation, where you may be in the situation, you'll always have the ears of the people. Think about it. Abigail is the wife of the enemy. Abigail is the wife of someone who disrespected the soon to be king's men and disrespected the soon to be king in David. David could have easily, if it was anybody else, said, forget this, killed her. Forget this, kill them. We still got a mission on. We still got something that we need to go do. But because she was in the position and the place of grace for this whole thing, he received reproof from a woman. Now I can imagine if it was Saul, that's not happening. But because it was David, David's mind was always stuck on God also. So if you ever want to test someone like that to see, yo, am I moving in my own strength? Am I moving in God's strength? Am I moving in the right position? Am I moving by my assignment? You always can check how reproof, when you reproof someone, how they respond. David didn't respond in his still flesh. The reproof caused David to calm down. The reproof caused David to remember who he was in God, and he dialed back. David was in his own or his own strength. He was in his feelings. He was feeling some type of way. But the moment godly wisdom touched his ears, he chilled. He even admitted he was wrong because how he wanted to respond. And it's funny because when you're graced, the graced give grace. She's graced and gave grace. He was graced to be king and in return gave grace. being being in a position where you are graced for a thing, you're going to respond with a lot of wisdom. And when you respond with a lot of wisdom, the ears of the people will open up to you, no matter the platform, no matter who they are, where you may be on the totem pole, or what the situation may be. They're going to receive what you have to say. Those individuals who want wisdom, who want knowledge, who want to be right, whose relationships are tied back to God, will be open to the word that's hitting their ears. They just won't close off and still respond in their own way. So it gives me this to give you guys. When you're graced for a thing, a godly heart reacting in wisdom leads to a later reward. When you have a godly heart, it will lead you to responding in wisdom. And in turn, you'll find a later reward, right? Godly heart out of Abigail. She honored the prearranged marriage, no matter how bad the individual was, how messed up the individual was. She honored it. Godly heart and a wisdom move. She knew she was not in any place to go intercede, but she did it anyways. And she did it the right way because her mind was on God's vision for David and God's future plans for David, which led to a later reward. So here's the later reward. All this happens, right? David changes his mind from slaughtering everyone. Word travels back that David changed his mind and everyone is safe. So now Nabal throws this big festival, this big feast. He's celebrating, he's getting drunk, he's eating the whole nine. And all the while, Abigail is sitting back like, this wasn't nothing he did. This was all me. But instead of putting it out there, she waits, she chills, and she goes. And when it's all said and done, the celebration is over. Abigail tells her husband what she actually did. And instantly, he has a stroke from the moment. She tells him, yo, I went out, I did this, I had this conversation with David, I calmed him down, and he's changed his mind. And because of that news, something triggered. And Nabal has a stroke that ends up killing him days later. Abigail, now widowed, in time, she remarries. And who does she remarry? She remarried David because of the interaction they had on that road. He's seen how much of a ride or die she was. He's seen the wisdom that she had and she possessed, and he's seen the godly heart that she had. The godly heart she had still pushed her out there when she was not in the place or the position or had the authority to do so. But she went out there in wisdom. And so David pulls her in and marries her. And when she handled it the right way in her response, she did all the right things. It led to her reward in the end, which was a better relationship, a better situation, And that's one of the things that anytime you respond the right way, when you move in wisdom, your later reward will always be a better place and a better position. A better place and a better position. Because even for David in the situation, he establishes a good wife. He gains a good wife. And from marrying this good wife, he also gains Nabal's wealth and riches because he died and he married the wife. When you're graced for a situation, place, person, thing, no matter the crisis that comes during that time, you responding wisely will land you in a better place and a better position. Abigail, responding wisely with a godly heart, led and landed her in a better place and a better position. So that's all. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps somebody understand that your godly assignment, the things that you are graced for, don't let them frustrate you to the point that you step out of making wise decisions. Because when you move like how God wants you to move, you move in wisdom, the reward later down the road will be great. So y'all have a good night. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all have a safe and beautiful weekend. And like I always tell it, when Sunday comes, no matter whose church service you're in, go wild out for Jesus and have fun. I love you guys. Give him all the glory, honor, and the praise. Amen.